Hey guys, it's Ben the Coin Geek at Old Pueblo Coin, and today I have for you an overview of what are known as military payment certificates, or MPC. And before we get started, I just want to remind you that you can support the channel by clicking, watching, sharing, liking, and also now we do have memberships available for those of you who care to help support the channel a little bit more. You can follow the links in the show notes. And without further ado, I take you to something that is known as military payment certificates, which some of you know very intimately well, and others of you may have never seen before. It's a type of currency that was used specifically either in war situations or very specifically for the military. First, I just want to show you these British Armed Force pieces, and then this allied currency. These are just kind of a also, and they make these. That's not the focus of the video. I just wanted you to see that the U.S. is not entirely alone in its use of these type of items. Really cool designs on these guys, and lots of legal mumbo jumbo on them, as you'd expect. So anyway, these guys are pretty cool. We got the 1 shilling note, and we got the 6 pence note. All right, but on to the main event here, this U.S. currency that are known as military payment certificates. And one of the first things I want to teach you is something that will help you to cherry pick these at any coin shop or coin show that you go to. And that is that they actually make remainder notes, replacement notes. Let me get my R words correct here. So on the serial number, when you look at most pieces of currency, there are replacement notes. And they're also known as star notes because they'll have a star in them. On these serial numbers, you'll see that they have the AA block on this one. When you see a note and it is missing the first one, the prefix, and so it would basically just look like instead of the A there, it'd be nothing there, it'd be 051. Whenever you see that, that is a replacement or a star note, and that's pretty cool. And those can be really valuable in this different series depending on what it is. For the use only in the United States military establishments by United States authorized personnel in accordance with applicable rules and regulations. So this guy here, series, there's a lot of different series on these. This is series 461, and 461 was used in the Pacific during, well, just post World War II, really, 1946 through 1947. And you can see it has this really basic legalistic design with just some fancy, your typical fancy currency, intaglio press type stuff where it's got all the real fancy curly cues all throughout them. There's a lot of fanciness going on here. So this note here is actually going to be the next series, series 472. There's the series number on here. 472 was issued from 1948 to 1951, and it was used in Europe, Japan, Korea, and the Philippines. So kind of everywhere. A lot of places use these guys. And you'll also see that, like some of the fractional currency of old, you had series that would have the same design elements for the different denominations, and they would simply change up the denomination. So the notes would look the same. So we're going to go from series 472 to 481. And one of the things I want to point out, you may have noticed on some of those military, the British notes, there's like tape and resin, and on this other note, these are coming from something known as a short snorter. So the military guys would take these and they'd tape them one to the other, and they would share them, so they'd be taped together like thus, and people would share them with one another. They would collect them this way. Lots of times they'll have autographs from the different soldiers who had them. A little bit more color on the back of this guy than we've seen on some of the other notes. And so this series 481, 1951 to 1954, also Europe, Japan, Korea, the Philippines. So this was just kind of everywhere on these guys. And so most guys who served in the 50s, late 40s to early 50s, So if your dad or granddad served, you're likely to see a lot of these type of notes that have come up, these first few notes, if they were serving post World War II. Next up, I want to show you this series 521. There's the series number. So now what we're starting to get at, first of all, is a lot more color in the notes, but also you're starting to see some images of Liberty, some lovely ladies. And this is something that is a change. Those first couple issues just didn't really have any design on them. No faces really, and then you start getting into more of the Liberty designs, and you're going to see that going on. This note also used Europe, Japan, Korea, Philippines. Same with this next series of 521. This is the $1. So the different issues had different denominations. Not every year had the same denomination. Most of them had like 5, 10, quarter, 50 cent, and dollar. And then different issues would have a 5 and a 10. And then some of the later issues started having a 20. And pretty interesting. This one's kind of beat up as far as the condition goes. But you can start to see that design change. Now, I'm skipping a couple here. We're going to go back and forward in time. And I'm going to this 611 series, which is really cool because this is the Peace Dollar series, right? So the design for this note is basically the Peace Dollar. You know, it's a very similar look. And for those of you who collect Peace Dollars, you may want to look into trying to find just 1 or 2 of these notes in nice uncirculated condition. A lot of these notes are really inexpensive. I mean, most of the different series and designs in the 5 cent through dollar range, lots of them will just be a few dollars for AUs. And so once you get into the higher grades, of course, you can spend as much money as you want on something, but they're really fun. It's a neat area to collect, and it has a lot of crossover because you've got military guys that collect stuff like this, and then you have currency guys, and of course the Peace Dollar one especially has that relationship to coin collectors, especially if someone collects Peace Dollars. Now the 611 series was made from 1964 to 1969 and used in Cyprus, Japan, Korea, and Libya. So pretty limited space that those notes were used. And so some of you may have used those when you were in the military. We're going to jump to series 661. And once again, you've got this really interesting looking figure here because, you know, it is kind of a, what would you say about this young girl, right? I mean, a young girl, and she's got the headdress, and you're not really sure where she's from. Well, these were used in Vietnam. Now, most of the other series that I have to show you right now are going to be used in Vietnam, and that's where a lot of guys have their notes from. So a lot of guys were in Vietnam, and a lot of the notes that we see and use most frequently are from the Vietnam era. Next up, I'm going to show you the series 641. Now these were used from 1965 to 1968, also of course in Vietnam. And what's cool is here I have a series of them, so what you can see is how they would go with one design, and they would just change the denomination and change the color, which in a way is kind of funny because we're used to seeing that with like Monopoly, right? You have all the notes look the same, only the colors change. So most of these notes, like I said before, you can pick up for $1 or $2. Even this quarter piece, which looks like it's a nice AU, you know, it's probably just a few dollars. And one of the things I want to highlight, just for my own personal gratification, is the era that you were in and Little Miss Liberty's hairdo and style, you know, just really fun to me to see. You can really tell the era based on the style of hair on some of these different issues. And here is actually a $1 issue from that same series. Also, probably not that expensive. This note is going to be something that in this condition which is like a nice AU, is probably going to be $7 or $8. It has a centerfold there, so it's not uncirculated, although it looks really nice. Now, once you get past some of those designs, you get into Series 681, and now we're into kind of a new era, because these issues came out in 1969 and 1970, and you got the submarine on one side. Once again, you've got the different colors for the same denomination, and then on back we've got spacewalk going on here in different colors. And most of these notes are really inexpensive. I mean, these you can pick up for just a couple bucks each in this condition. Nice AUs. Unks, maybe a buck or two more. They're not expensive. So kind of a cool series to collect. And we're going to continue with the military theme. We went from maybe Liberty to military on these, the 681 series, where you've got a fighter pilot, and then on the back you've got the fighters going. So, you know, a little bit different feel, military payment certificate, which was very much so more military in the 681 series, where you had, you know, military themed items instead of kind of the Liberty designs. Now, what's interesting then is you get to the 692 series dollar, which I have, which is, I think, my favorite piece to show you today, and it's also the nicest note that I have to show you, and just the imagery. Now, 692, this is 1970 to 73, and so, but it's got this throwback feel to the 50s or 60s with her hair, her design. This, I think, is a nice uncirculated note, and then you have these really cool purple flowers on them. And then, my friends who happen to collect, you know, banknotes, look what's on the back of this guy. Now, some of you will recognize this right away as the bison from the 1901 $10 piece. And this note I was considering sending in. Let me see if that's oh good, that is just not. I thought that was ink. I was like, oh dang it. So, but this note, choice CU note's probably going to be $100 or more, and I'm trying to get some stuff together to send in for certification on currency. I don't send a whole lot in, but I really like this note. I think it'll make the grade and be worth sending in. So there you go. Without any interruption this time, it looks like, we have our military payment certificates. Leave your comments down below. Let me know if you guys remember collecting these things or using them. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Ben, the Coin Geek. You can subscribe by clicking on the button in the corner. Watch more videos on the right side of the screen. Thanks.